The New York Knicks and the Miami Heat meet once again, closing out an uncommon home-and-home stretch that adds both tension and intrigue to an already competitive matchup. When teams face each other twice in rapid succession, adjustments become sharper, coaching becomes more tactical, and every detail from the previous game becomes a crucial piece of the next chapter. For the Knicks, this is another opportunity to build momentum. For the Heat, it's a chance to correct what slipped away just days ago. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. To understand Miami's mindset heading into this rematch, we went to Miami Heat on SI reporter Brady Hawk, who has tracked every nuance of Miami's evolving identity this season. Hawk notes that the game broke nearly every expectation tied to the long-standing Heat-Knicks rivalry. What is historically a gritty, defense-first showdown unexpectedly turned into a high-paced offensive clash. Both teams found rhythm early, and instead of trading stops, they traded buckets. According to Hawk, that kind of game is the exception, not the rule, in this matchup. Whether it repeats will depend heavily on Miami's defensive urgency, particularly along the perimeter. He stresses that the Heat cannot afford to give New York multiple possessions on the same trip. Preventing second-chance points will be essential if Miami hopes to dictate the tempo. Hawk highlights a philosophical shift in Miami's offensive structure. The Heat have moved away from their old reliance on pick-and-roll sets, leaning instead on isolation reads, detailed spacing principles, and a streamlined drive-and-kick approach. This season, Miami has emphasized playing earlier in the shot clock, pushing the ball after makes or misses, and using pace not just as a stylistic preference, but as a strategic weapon. The goal is to generate more total shots, to stretch defenses, and to force opponents into constant rotations. As Hawk describes it, this year's Heat offense aims to be unpredictable, less mechanical, and far more aggressive in the first 8 seconds of the possession. Paint touches are the hidden currency of Miami's offense. While traditional box scores capture points, rebounds, and assists, they fail to show the sheer impact of consistently getting into the lane. Every time Miami gets 2 feet inside the paint, the defense collapses, decisions open up, and the offense becomes far more dynamic. That might lead to a short jumper from Jaime Jaquez Jr., a controlled floater, or a kickout from Davion Mitchell to an open shooter on the perimeter. These actions may not stand out individually, but collectively, they are the quiet force driving Miami's scoring efficiency this season. Rebounding is the headline, and Hawk does not shy away from saying it. Miami simply could not close defensive possessions in the previous meeting. Even when the Heat forced tough shots, they allowed the Knicks to grab offensive boards and reset their offense. With Miami continuing to navigate injuries and limited depth in the front court, rebounding can no longer be the responsibility of 1 or 2 players. It must be a team-wide commitment. Boxing out, crashing the glass as a unit, and preventing second-chance putbacks will determine whether the Heat can neutralize Mitchell Robinson, who remains one of the league's most dominant offensive rebounders. Hawk emphasizes that if Miami can control the boards, the entire complexion of the game changes. Hawk expects a noticeably lower scoring game from both sides. Not a full return to the classic defensive slugfests of old, but certainly a tighter, more controlled version of Friday's matchup. With Erik Spoelstra having 2 full days to dissect tape, tweak coverages, and adjust the rotation, Hawk leans slightly toward a Heat victory. He believes Spoelstra's adjustments, paired with a renewed emphasis on rebounding and defensive discipline, could allow Miami to flip the outcome this time around. Still, he acknowledges that New York's physicality, size, and rhythm pose a real challenge. As both teams prepare for another test, the stakes feel elevated. It's not just a rematch, it's a collision of contrasting identities. New York's rugged, interior-driven style against Miami's evolving blend of pace, spacing, and calculated aggression. Tip-off between the Knicks and Heat is set for 7:30 p.m. ET at Kaseya Center, setting the stage for another compelling chapter in one of the NBA's most enduring rivalry. Is Jalen Brunson playing versus Heat? The Knicks have released a new injury update, and the situation heading into tonight's game in Miami is anything but simple. The New York Knicks are entering one of the most challenging stretches of their season, and they're doing it shorthanded. Their matchup against the Miami Heat comes at a time when the roster is being tested, the rotation is being stretched thin, and the team is searching for stability while 2 key starters remain unavailable. Jalen Brunson, the engine of the offense and the steady presence at point guard, will not suit up tonight due to a sprained right ankle. Alongside him, OG Anunoby continues to recover from a left hamstring strain that has already forced him out of action and will keep him sidelined for weeks. The injury report lays out a complicated picture. Anunoby's strained left hamstring requires a 2-week recovery window before he can even be reevaluated, meaning the Knicks will have to navigate their entire upcoming road trip without one of their most reliable defenders and most efficient two-way players. Brunson, meanwhile, suffered his ankle sprain late in the fourth quarter of the November 12th loss against the Orlando Magic. It was a grade 1 sprain, not the least severe category, but the visual of him leaving Madison Square Garden in a walking boot supported by crutches immediately brought concern to the fan base, not only because he's central to everything the Knicks do offensively, but also because this is the same ankle that gave him trouble last season. Adding to the list of uncertainties is Deuce McBride, whose status remains questionable due to personal reasons. His absence, if he cannot play, leaves the Knicks with even fewer guard options at a moment when the backcourt depth is already being pushed to its limit. Still, despite the setbacks, the Knicks received a small but important dose of optimism. Reports confirmed that Jalen Brunson will travel with the team on their 5-game road trip. That detail alone suggests that the injury may not be as severe as feared. ESPN's Cassidy Hubbarth delivered additional insight, saying Brunson is truly day-to-day, has already shed the crutches, and is responding well to treatment. According to her report, his return hinges solely on his pain tolerance, and Brunson is known league-wide for his toughness and ability to play through discomfort. To understand how significant Brunson's absence is, you only have to look at the way the Knicks operate with him on the floor. He controls tempo, organizes the offense, and consistently carries the scoring load. Against Orlando, he dropped 31 points and 6 assists before the injury knocked him out in the final minutes. His ability to both score and create makes him one of the most important players on the roster, and losing him, even for a short period, forces the Knicks into major adjustments. The same can be said for OG Anunoby. His injury came just 2 minutes into Friday's NBA Cup matchup against Miami, when he pulled up on a fast break, grabbing his hamstring. He exited immediately and never returned. Given his defensive impact, often taking on the toughest perimeter assignment, his absence leaves a noticeable gap. Without him, the Knicks must rely more heavily on Josh Hart, Miles McBride, and other role players who now step into expanded responsibilities. Despite the adversity, the Knicks showed impressive resilience in their last performance. A 140-132 victory over the Heat, played without Brunson. That game showcased how deep this roster can be when players step into elevated roles. Landry Shamet delivered the best performance of his career, scoring 36 points off the bench and providing a spark the Knicks desperately needed. Karl Anthony Towns turned in a dominant outing of his own, putting up 39 points and 11 rebounds, overwhelming Miami on both ends of the court. Josh Hart continued his trend of doing a little bit of everything, recording a triple-double, 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. Looking ahead, the Knicks are expected to lean more heavily on Shamet as the primary guard off the bench. Miles McBride, depending on his availability, and rookie Tyler Collette could also see expanded playmaking duties. Each will be asked to steady the offense, manage the tempo, and maintain production until Brunson returns. The coaching staff understands that replacing Brunson's full impact is impossible, but maintaining ball movement and defensive pressure is essential if the Knicks hope to remain competitive during this stretch. Even though New York has proved capable of winning without Brunson, the long-term priority remains clear: getting him fully healthy. This 5-game road trip will test the group's chemistry, resilience, and ability to execute under pressure. And while the Knicks have shown flashes of what they can do short-handed, the expectation is that the team will look noticeably stronger once their star point guard is back in uniform. For now, the Knicks continue forward, balancing urgency with patience and hoping their top playmaker returns sooner rather than later. The New York Knicks find themselves standing at a critical pivot point, one that could reshape the franchise for years to come. The growing noise around an aggressive pursuit of Anthony Davis is now intersecting with the undeniable rise of Karl Anthony Towns, creating a moment that forces the organization to confront what kind of team it wants to be. This is not just another rumor cycle, it's a scenario that touches every layer of the Knicks roster construction, identity, and long-term ambitions. The latest round of speculation centers on a potential 3-team trade, one that would send shockwaves through the NBA. The structure is bold. Anthony Davis would arrive in New York, Karl Anthony Towns would be shipped to the Dallas Mavericks, and the Brooklyn Nets would step in to facilitate the financial and roster mechanic. Bleacher Report first floated this proposal, and ever since it has remained at the forefront of league discussions. Not because it's guaranteed, because it forces a real debate inside Knicks circles. Is it smarter to lean into the proven defensive brilliance of Davis, or continue building around the offensive engine that Towns has become? The terms of the proposal lay out a dramatic shift. New York would receive Davis, Jaden Hardy, Brandon Williams, and Dante Exum. Dallas would acquire Towns along with Guershon Yabusele, Tyler Kolek, Pacome Dadiet, and Ariel Hook-Porty. The Brooklyn Nets would take on Dwight Powell and obtain a 2027 second-round pick. Every piece of the puzzle is intentionally placed to satisfy cap rules while theoretically benefiting each franchise competitively. For the Knicks, this situation goes far beyond names on paper. Karl Anthony Towns has become a foundational part of the team's offensive identity. His shooting touch, his spacing, his ability to stretch defenses, all of it elevates the system built around Jalen Brunson. Towns arrived in New York ready to prove he could be the centerpiece of a winning team, and his play this season reinforces that belief. He is a matchup problem every night, and he has already played a leading role in helping the Knicks maintain one of the most efficient offenses in the league. But Anthony Davis brings something no other player on the roster provides: elite, franchise-defining defense. Even with the injuries, even with the missed games, Davis remains one of the most dominant interior defenders in basketball. He changes shots, alters game plans, and can anchor an entire defensive system by himself. Paired with players like Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Mitchell Robinson, Davis could turn the Knicks into a suffocating defensive machine. His presence would instantly raise New York's ceiling on that end of the floor, and that is precisely where the internal debate sharpens. Towns offers reliability and offensive excellence. Davis offers transformation and defensive superiority, but attached to Davis is a long medical history that cannot be ignored. This season alone, he has played just 5 games due to a left calf strain and persistent Achilles tendinopathy. Last year in Dallas, he missed significant time. He has dealt with multiple injuries that limit not only his availability, but also the risk tolerance of any team considering committing long-term resources to him. A player with Davis's pedigree is always tempting. He is a former top pick, a perennial all-star, a player who at his best is one of the most complete big men in the league, but the Knicks must weigh what happens if the injuries linger. Losing Towns, healthy, productive, and central to the team's offensive ecosystem, would be a steep price to pay. A risk like this is only justifiable if Davis is consistently on the floor, something that recent seasons have made difficult to assume. From Dallas's perspective, the rationale is easier to follow. The Mavericks, now in a transitional period after dismissing general manager Nico Harrison, appear ready to pivot toward a new era around rookie sensation Cooper Flagg. Moving Davis allows them to reset without the pressure of extracting a Luka-level return. Towns provides age, stability, and offensive firepower that can support a rebuilding franchise without the complications of Davis's health status. For the Knicks, the decision is more complex. There is genuine intrigue in imagining Davis suffocating opposing offenses, while Towns' scoring is replaced by defensive dominance. But team chemistry matters, continuity matters. And right now, Karl Anthony Towns is healthy, productive, and central to what New York is building. Trading him would require near certainty that the return elevates the team not just theoretically, but consistently. And durability remains the obstacle that keeps this idea in the realm of speculation rather than action. In the end, the Knicks' interest in Davis reflects ambition, not desperation. It reflects a desire to reach the next tier of contention. But the cost, considering the risk, remains too steep. The smarter, safer, and more sustainable path is continuing to build around Towns' dynamic offense, while addressing defensive concerns through coaching adjustments, bench reinforcements, and internal development. This proposed blockbuster makes for compelling discussion, it creates headlines, it sparks debate, but as of now, it reads more like a hypothetical crafted to ignite conversation than a move approaching reality. The Knicks remain positioned to thrive with Towns at the center of their attack while pursuing defensive upgrades that don't require betting the franchise on the health of Anthony Davis.